With recent events in Europe, and in particular the influx of alleged refugees who are really not refugees, they are basically the scum of Middle Eastern societies which have used the invitation by Angela Merkel for refugees as a chance to empty out their prisons, their slums, and indeed their mental hospital facilities. But one has to ask, why did Angela Merkel invite these people? Why did she open the borders of Germany in order to bring these people in and indeed give them a welfare system which probably serves these refugees better than local Germans? And recently I wrote a little piece on a forum called downloadpolitics.com concerning Angela Merkel and an open letter that was published by supposedly 100 social psychologists to Angela Merkel. Now, social psychologists, well, it was just an academic waffle, as you expect from these sorts of people. But it did interest me into the, sanity of Angela Merkel. So, having thought about it, I took a look into her background, and I've done this before on a previous clip, that she isn't really German. Looking into her background, she comes from a Jewish maternal bloodline, which I suspect is Sabbatean, because both sides of her family have a large proportion of Polish ancestry, but she's not Polish, and looking at the way she treats the German people, she's not German. So she according to her background, she should be able to relate to Polish people, but she cannot, which would point to her being Jewish. So, looking at what she does and how she acts, and concerning the post I did on downloadpolitics.com, I got an interesting reply that she seems to be, non-compos mentis, in some of the answers she gives. And this could quite possibly be because of some sort of trauma, some sort of sexual abuse, physical abuse, or mental abuse she had as a child. And so I did a bit of a background check on it. And yeah, she does come from a very, let's say, unusual family. So, looking at it now, it could explain a lot, and it would indicate to me that she has some sort of psychosis, which one would expect of a Sabbatean. And essentially she has become a solipsist. Everything in this world is a dream to her. It resides in her consciousness. I have done a previous clip on solipsism in concerns to anti-theism, and she does seem to regard herself as a god on earth. You know, she's a, how do you say, it's more like a, suppose, oh, it's a, well, look at it this way. Sabbateanism, even though one has to be of a Jewish bloodline to be involved, actually functions more akin to a Christianity type setup. It's really bizarre. It's actually a Maltheist Gnostic sect. It's actually quite against the God of Abraham and anything that's regarded as of an Abrahamic faith. So the Judaism that one would associate with, say, the likes of Moses does not apply to her. And such a cult, which is what Sabbateanism is, would cause a psychosis. Now, with solipsism, anything that she cannot, or in the case of Merkel, anything she cannot explain is deemed to be a subconscious thought. It's uncertain. So having all these refugees pour into Germany, commit crimes and the like, that's deemed by her to be some sort of subconscious thought. It's not real. It doesn't matter. The people who are the indigenous Germans who are being beaten and raped and robbed, they don't matter. They are not real. So let's just look at a few things. You can ask, why would a German person do this to Germany? But she is not German. She, how do you say it? She sees herself as neither German nor Polish, but yet both, but neither at the same time. It's simultaneously. It is a psychosis. So does she consider herself Jewish or Judaistic in any way? That would only be by bloodline. When you look at her background, which gets interesting, she comes from what is essentially Polish nationality. Whether her ancestors considered themselves to be Polish or not, that's uncertain. But her great-grandmother, Emma Wax, or Emma Wax, her genealogy does not go beyond that, so you can go up to Merkel's great-grandmother, then the genealogy just stops. And now, as I understand it, if she was, let's say, of a Catholic background like most Poles are, there would be some sort of genealogy records, but there is nothing. Even in with the Judaism and the synagogue, there would still be some records, but there is nothing. Although you can put this down to World War II and the like, there's just, the genealogy just stops dead. And when you look at her father, who was originally Catholic, before becoming a Lutheran pastor. And he preferred to live in East Germany rather than West Germany, even though Merkel was born in Hamburg and had opportunity to move to West Germany or stay there permanently. He became a Lutheran pastor who resided in East Germany and travelled between East and West sections of Germany. And although you could say, well, it's due to the Polish ancestry that he might have preferred to stay in East Germany. Still, travelling between East and West Germany would have brought in an absence to Angela Merkel's upbringing, and they would have been filled by the state or else by others of a bloodline, and no one knows what religion they were, because East Germany was atheist. So is this a void which just cannot be explained? And when you consider Marxist indoctrination, a corrupted or perverted, Sabbatean bloodline, and who knows what stories came along with that, it would be quite reasonable to say this would cause a psychosis, and we see this being acted out at this very day. I mean, who invites a million undocumented, unknown refugees into their country, and yet just does it to the detriment of the indigenous people of that country? She does not seem to care. She does not seem to believe that any problems from that are actually real. But from a Sabbatean point of view, it's something that has to come about. And some people say, well, that's Sabbateanism. Jacob, what's it? What it was, Shabbatai Zevi, that was 500 years ago or whatever. No. You had Jacob Frank, who was based in Poland, and that was only about a couple of 100 years ago. And so as Sabbateanism, or what you call Frankism, although you say 250 years ago, since Jacob Frank went to hell, hopefully, and his psychotic daughter tried to keep the thing going. What you call Sabbateanism, Frankism never died. If you really pick through history of these bloodlines, you have various Sabbateans at various times claiming to be claiming to be reincarnations of the likes of Jacob Frank, of Sabbatai Zevi, Simon Magus. And you've got Angela Merkel now in a position of power, and maybe she's wondering to herself, am I the reincarnation of Sabbatai Zevi? And this would cause a psychosis. It would cause solipsism. Where one believes, she is the saviour of the Jewish people, and that's bloodline Jews, those of a Jewish mother. The religion is irrelevant because Sabbateanism is a Gnostic faith. It is not an Abrahamic faith. It actually opposes the God of Abraham. So, we have this situation where you've got people in political positions all claiming now to have Jewish ancestry. Malcolm Turnbull, Australian Prime Minister, is of a maternal Jewish bloodline. You have John Key, the New Zealand Prime Minister, who is of a maternal Jewish bloodline. And you have David Cameron, who's claiming to be of a Jewish bloodline. And at this current time, we can see the leaders of the Western world seemingly determined to cause chaos in their own countries, which Sabbateanism believes that the more degenerate, the more sinful, the more debased people become, this will force the Messiah to come to earth, that God will send the Messiah to earth. Their Messiah, not yours. And when you have the likes of Merkel and Turnbull and Key and Cameron and probably others looking at the current events which they helped engineer, they must be wondering, am I the Messiah? Am I God's representative on earth? Their God, not yours. And you would have to ask, who is their God? Well, in Malthuism, you would be dealing with either, I put it down to three options. Either Satan, which is a title held by the Lucifer, Moloch, or some sort of collective Jewish bloodline consciousness. And when you look at the way Judaism now is nothing to do with Moses, you have to ask, how far has what you call Sabbateanism infiltrated the Judaistic faith, that which should come from what Moses did. And let me put this to you. How many times have you heard of a Jewish psychoticness? When you consider idiosyncrasies associated with Jewish people. It was said to be a type of mental illness through, I don't know where you say bloodlines or where you say some sort of consciousness due to upbringing or something like that. But anyway, let's bring in some further action.